News, the man you see on your screen, Rex Heuermann, was arrested this morning. This comes as officers say a large police presence early in Massapequa Park is related to the investigation. Now, since 2010, the bodies of at least 10 women have been discovered along Ocean Parkway on Long Island. No arrests have been made in this case until today.
Joining us now in Studio 57 is 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty. And we also have Pat Milton, the senior producer for CBS News' investigative unit, joining us on Zoom. Great to have both of you here on this significant day in this case. Pat, we're going to start with you. If you can fill us in on the latest, what do we know about what led police to this person? What do we know now about the suspect?
We're still digging in on the details, but he's expected to be arraigned in Suffolk County on Long Island this afternoon. We aren't clear about what the charges are, but he's definitely been arrested in connection with the long unsolved case of these women who were found, their bodies were found at Gilgo Beach murdered.
Erin, let's speak more about what happened. You've been covering this case for more than a decade.
I want to make it very clear. We don't know very much of anything, but what's really important to know is when you say like 10, where remains of 10 people have been found, there are 4 women in particular, which we, call the Gilgo Beach murders, and they were likely, most investigators have always believed they were killed by a single person. That's the only thing we can actually say, because those 4 women who were found in December of 2010 were killed in the same manner, were found very close to each other, were wrapped in burlap in the same way. It was only weeks later that they found these other remains along. So we need to make it clear that we don't know. In fact, this individual will be charged with 4 murders or more than that. But it may not just be one person responsible for all of this.
There's a possibility that there might be other suspects out there or other
that they may not have, right? But I think at this point, the only thing that investigators were really sure is that those 4 women, and one disappeared in 2007, then 2 years later, another one disappeared 2009, and then 2 disappeared in 2010. At the end of that year, December 2010, they found all 4 women who had been apparently killed in the same manner and wrapped in the same manner along Ocean Parkway in Long Island.
And Erin, as Errol mentioned, you really have been covering this for such a long time. You know these families, you've been talking to them. What more can you tell us about these victims, or in particular these 4 women, and if you're hearing anything from these families now?
Well, I think they're going to be meeting with the task force, or at least talking with the task force today. This has been so difficult for all these families. This has been going on and on and on. Megan Waterman, the young woman who disappeared in July of 2010, had a young daughter who's always wondered about what happened to her mother. So this has to come as a huge relief for these families and really for the community, because this has been a huge mystery. I should point out that what's interesting about the case is those 4 women were actually found because of another woman who disappeared in May of 2010. And this was Shannon Gilbert. She disappeared actually from a different place, Oak Beach. And when they were looking for her is when they came across the 4 bodies in December of 2010 along Ocean Parkway, and then found other remains also along Ocean Parkway.
So significant for the victims' families, but this is a significant achievement for the police as well. Pat, we want to get back to you. I remember just a few years ago, police in this area called a press conference because they had one new piece of evidence, what seemed like insignia on a belt that was found near the scene, and they wanted more information. That was 3 years ago. Talk to us about the police presence in Massapequa Park, what's happening there, and when we expect to hear all the details from the police.
Yes, Errol, you're absolutely correct, and Erin is just such an expert on this investigation. But I attribute a lot to the fact that the new district attorney and a new police chief in Suffolk County, they created a task force which included the FBI, and about a year ago, and really went after this full steam ahead. Erin is correct that Shannon Gilbert, who disappeared, was the first one that they started looking for. and they used cadaver dogs, and the dogs were who came upon the remains out in Gilgo Beach, which is way out past Jones Beach in Suffolk County on Long Island. But we're going to be learning a lot more today. They have arraignment around 3 o'clock in Suffolk County before Judge Amber, and they'll be releasing what the charges are. Again, Aaron is correct to caution. We don't know, how much he's going to be charged with the disappearance and murders of these at least 7 victims. The district attorney is going to be having a news conference at 4 o'clock, which will be, again, giving more details of what during this investigation. But state police, Suffolk County Police, and the task force descended upon Massapequa Park home last night. They were there for hours, and he was taken into custody and is now awaiting arraignment.
Major development. It's great to have CBS News heavy hitters with us to walk through this, and we'll stay close with you guys throughout the day. Pat Milton, Erin Moriarty, our thanks to you both. And again, the Suffolk County District Attorney will have a news conference at about 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll, of course, bring that to you live as soon as it begins.
Thank you for joining us on this Friday night. We begin tonight with the stunning new details we're learning about a suspected serial killer on New York's Long Island. The suspect is 59-year-old Rex Heuermann, charged with the murders of 3 women and the prime suspect in the death of a 4th. The Manhattan architect and married father is a longtime resident of Long Island and lives not far from Gilgo Beach, where the remains of his alleged victims were discovered in 2010. Well, that community has lived in fear for nearly 13 years since officials first discovered those victims. In total, 11 sets of human remains were found in that same area. Authorities were unable to identify a suspect. And according to new court documents, investigators were able to link the suspect to the 3 killings using DNA evidence from a pizza crust and data from burner cell phones. CBS's Meg Oliver has all the grisly details tonight from Gilgo Beach. Good evening, Meg.
Nora, good evening. Police uncovered most of the human remains along this remote beach. Police say the suspect, Rex Heuermann, has been under surveillance for months, and it was revealed in court documents today he allegedly used one of the victims' cell phones to make taunting calls to her family after the murder.
Rex, did you do it?
Police say Rex Heuermann, a New York City architect, is the suspected serial killer they've been hunting for over a decade. Heuermann lived on this quiet street in Massapequa, Long Island. He was arrested near his Manhattan office last night and arraigned today.
Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families.
Prosecutors said investigators were led to Heuermann initially after a witness reported seeing a pickup truck when one of the victims disappeared in 2010. Investigators later recovered his DNA from a pizza crust he discarded in Manhattan and matched it to genetic material found on the bodies. They also linked him to other evidence, including burner phones used to arrange meetings with the victims.
We're continuing to execute search warrants, and we anticipate getting more evidence.
Today, Heuermann was charged with murder in the deaths of 3 women and is the prime suspect of another victim whose bodies were first discovered on Long Island in 2010. The women, all sex workers, were found wrapped in burlap bags. Shannon Gilbert was among those who went missing after making this desperate call to 911.
There's somebody out there wearing
In all, police found the remains of 11 people in the area of Gilgo Beach, including a toddler.